Welcome to Fun and Fundraising, everybody, the podcast where we talk with people behind top nonprofit galas and signature fundraising events to showcase how they positively transform their communities. I am your host, Rob Giardinelli, and today I am beyond excited to have a very special guest on. Angie Kadesky is the chairman of the Crystal Charity Ball. And for those of you who are not familiar with this organization, it is one of the most dynamic fundraising organizations, I think, anywhere in the United States. So the organization over the last 71 years has basically given almost $200 million to dozens, if not hundreds of nonprofits throughout the Dallas and North Texas region. So we're really excited to hear about this really popular and storied event and, the mission of the Crystal Charity Ball. And with that, Angie, welcome. And we are so excited to have you on as a guest today.
Well, I'm so honored that you invited me. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us. And, I'd love for you to start by, telling us a little bit about the mission of the Crystal Charity Ball, and, what the organization does.
Absolutely. Our mission is to raise funds to benefit the children of Dallas County. And we do that in a number of ways. Primarily, the funds go to agencies or people in the trenches, we like to say, who actually hands on either in a hospital setting or in a school or in any kind of nonprofit in Dallas that helps kids.
That's fantastic. And I know that there's a lot of really great, wonderful, organizations, and we'll talk a little bit about that more, as we go further in the podcast. But, I'd love for you to share, a little bit about how you got involved with Crystal Charity Ball and, what makes the organization so special to you?
Well, that's two different questions. I'll try to answer the first one. I got involved when some of my friends who I had gotten to know through various other volunteer organizations that I had done in my life earlier days, Junior League or Cattle Barons or various other nonprofits. And they asked me if I would like to participate. And I, being a mom of 6 kids, love children, and I love the mission. I love helping children in need. And I thought, well, why not?
Fantastic. So, talk a little bit about, because you've being a mother of 6, I know that children's charities resonate with you. What about children's charities really drives a passion within you to really go out and raise really substantial amounts of money, for really worthy causes throughout North Texas?
Well, for me personally, I have, it kind of started when my daughter, my 4th daughter, not that I haven't always loved children, but my 4th daughter was born with significant life-threatening problems. And I felt at that time that, she was in tremendous need, and I had been blessed with so many things in life that I needed to help and do what I could to help children in need. I just felt called to do that. And so I have tried, even though I don't work outside the home, I have felt compelled to do what I can in a volunteer capacity to help children in need.
Absolutely. And I know, when you chair something, especially with the scope of, what you all do with Crystal Charity Ball and the multiple events you all do throughout the year, that in and of itself really is a full-time job. So, you're really stewarding and raising, really significant amounts of money that's really going, wide and deep within the Dallas community. So, you really are putting so much effort in it, and you can just tell in the voice with your passion and your personal connection with one of your children, being born with some ailments that, I'm really glad to hear that you're really taking it and you're paying it forward to a degree, it sounds like.
Right. And I have been blessed to be a part of numerous organizations with other women, men as well, but other women primarily, who are called to help benefit. And it's sort of, when you say pay it forward, it's kind of like pay it forward, pay it sideways, pay it backwards. It's pay it all around, because everyone in my circle, whether they do it through their work or do it through their volunteer efforts, or however they manage to do it, they tend to link arms and support one another and try to make the world a better place.
You couldn't have said that any better. I mean, I love how you kind of talked about, in addition to paying it forward, you pay it in a bunch of different ways, really to kind of pay it holistically around the whole community. So I really love how how you stated that, and that it's, it actually opened my eyes just now in terms of, how to kind of look at how you how you benefit your community and how you can really make a difference and make an impact. And speaking of impact, so, I know that this year the Crystal Charity Ball has picked, I believe it's 7 different nonprofits that they're going to give funds to. So would you be able to share a little bit about maybe some of the beneficiaries this year and how the organization, decides to support certain specific charities?
Yes, we selected 7 this year. We have a process, and Crystal Charity Ball, which is, it's not unique to our organization, but it's very special. And that is, and one of the reasons for our success with our donors, and that is, we put forth a tremendous amount of effort. It's over 4 months. In fact, the gal who's going to be chairing the ball next year has already started. And we take applications from nonprofits in Dallas that meet our criteria, meaning A, they're a nonprofit and financially sound, and B, they serve children. And we, through a months-long process with members of our committee, a huge charity selection committee, we take their applications for their projects, and we vet them financially through Deloitte, who looks and makes sure that they're sound. Then we have seasoned members to evaluate the applications, and we do presentations throughout the month of, we do site visits first, and then presentations throughout the month of January, and present to our committee. We have votes, and it's basically a 3-round process in January, where by the end of the day of our general membership meeting, we have an all-day meeting, and our members hear all of the presenters, the applicants, in their own words, and ask questions of them. And then we vote at the end of the day and select the agencies that we feel best meet the current critical needs of the children in Dallas. And that's not to say the ones we don't pick aren't worthy, and sometimes they come back and we'll pick them another year, but we try to pick the very best ones that meet the most current critical needs.
Absolutely. And, it was funny because when I got the release from your wonderful publicist, Terry Van Wilson, I love how you even go down to the dollar with the amount that an organization gets. So I had a smile on my face that, you didn't necessarily give YMCA of Metropolitan Dallas $800,000. It was $799,218. So I love how smart and how financially responsible you are. I'm like, okay, you really, it seems like, there's a specific project or a specific need that it's going to do to benefit children. And, you make sure that every dollar goes to a specific and right place. And it put a smile on my face when I saw that. I was like, gosh, I love how, exacting you all are. And, having an organization like Deloitte help vet that really allows for that.
Yes. And to your point about the dollars, we don't choose, we do it differently than a lot of organizations. We don't set an amount that we're going to raise. We fund the need that the agency presents to us. So if they say, you mentioned the YMCA of Metropolitan Dallas for the Park South YMCA, they tell us, they're building a new preschool in South Dallas, and we have funded them several times before. They're a phenomenal agency, and they're really truly a beacon of hope in that neighborhood. And what they do is they say, okay, it's going to cost XYZ to build this preschool. And we are committee members, when we're asking them questions, and we have accountants and lawyers and various financial people that are on our committee, members have that background, and they quiz them. And those agencies that are up there answering our questions have to be able to say, yes, this dollar is going to go to this project. And it's very specific. So that's why the numbers are not a round number. They are the actual costs of this project.
I think that's amazing. And it just goes to show, to me, when I hear you all talk about that, it goes to show the level of involvement and how seriously Crystal Charities takes each individual organization, that you really want to know down to the penny, literally, how they're spending their money. And I just, I think that's so smart. And I think it's, for any organization that's yours, and it's not that it's a formal foundation per se, but money is given much like a foundation, that it's funding a specific project or a specific need. I think that's with anyone who's doing any sort of type of work of that, where they're doing giving to another nonprofit. You really all are the gold standard in terms of how to do that. So I love, it was just such a wonderful, thoughtful, and detailed response. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
And I do want to add one thing. I think that with regard to the individuals and the foundations and businesses that do donate to us, one of the things that I love about our organization is that we take very seriously our obligation to them to vet these agencies. And if we choose them, we are, basically telling our donors, this is a good project and it's worthy of your funds. And they trust us, and they know over the last 71 years that we've put forward good organizations that do make a huge difference.
Absolutely. And you just touched upon something. You had mentioned businesses, and I think this is a good point where we can kind of shift the conversation a little bit. And what you all do is so impressive in how you engage with so many top businesses, retailers, and other businesses around Dallas and the North Texas area. So tell us a little bit about how Crystal Charity Ball partners with a lot of these top retailers on a year-round basis.
Well, we have retailers that we partner with because, quite frankly, we want to raise money from as many sources as we possibly can to make a difference for these agencies and these kids. And so if a business is sells goods, for example, then we want to partner with them to promote their business and to gather goods for, say, example, our silent auction. And we'll have a retailer. We partner with North Park Center, Highland Park Village, numerous retailers throughout Dallas, restaurants, etc. And they donate goods to us. Then we auction those goods off, and the proceeds from that auction benefit our beneficiaries. And then we also will host events in various various locations. We just went to a check-in yesterday with Stanley Korshak, Crawford Brock over there at Stanley Korshak has been a long time supporter of Crystal Charity, and they hosted one of our events, and we were there, having a meeting. Basically, we've had meetings at North Park all year long, at Holland Park Village. We host a fashion show in conjunction with Neiman Marcus and have for 49 years. And the fashion show benefits our the kids that we're serving. So we have a lot of different ways of connecting with retailers, but they're not the only businesses. I mean, we have corporate sponsors from you name a business pretty much, and we try to partner with them as best we can. Banks or you know AT&T or just a Amazon or I mean just a variety of businesses that we will try to partner with to leverage as much as we can to benefit the kids.
What I love about what you were talking about there is you were talking about multiple types of businesses. So you weren't just talking about retailers, but places like Amazon and law firms and things like that. How does Crystal Charities, what's some advice you could give to somebody in terms of how to approach, how you work with a retailer differently than you would say a corporate, like a more corporate sponsor, like a law firm or like American Airlines or Amazon or any one of those types of organizations?
Well, I think it boils down to what is it that they're in the business to do. So if you say, for example, a store that might sell luxury goods is in the business. So maybe they promote their business via products or products placement and such. And so we try to help them with that. Or say if it's a law firm or a bank, perhaps they want to have some exposure to our donors and members, and so we might have a party where they can introduce themselves to people that would be at the event. That's one way we do things. So we have a lot of sponsors. Deloitte, for example, is hosting our upcoming Circle of Angels dinner, and they host that event, and then we give them benefits for hosting it and giving us a donation, and in turn they get to speak to our the people there. So it's just whatever they how they want to reach their goals, we try to accommodate that. And it sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But we have for a long time had an ability to find out what they want and to help facilitate that with what we want, which is to raise money.
That's fantastic. And I love that you talked about the partnership model. And that's one of the things, when it's an ongoing year-round thing, because a lot of nonprofits, it's kind of a one and done with their gala or with their event. And I know that you've mentioned you've supported lots of causes throughout the years, and that model works for lots of organizations. But when you do something that's sustained year round, that really becomes a partnership. And you did such a good job just, identifying and understanding that each business is going to have different needs and they're going to have different wants based on just whether they're a big five accounting firm or they're a luxury retailer. So I love how you went about sharing that. And with that, I want to segue into I was talking with one of the other Crystal Charity members, and they were telling me you had brought up earlier the luncheon at Neiman Marcus that you all do, the Best Dressed Luncheon, which really in Dallas, that really is kind of the event that kind of kicks off the fall social season. In many ways, it's really the first truly big thing that happens in Dallas. And they were telling me that that basically the proceeds that are raised from that luncheon underwrite the whole ball. So that really, from a marketing perspective, it sounds like you can basically go and say anything that's raised that night basically goes directly to funding these 7 projects. How does that help you all attract donors to really make sure that your underwriting is already taken care of before the big night even happens?
Well, it's a little bit I don't want to say counterintuitive, but basically it helps us to go to a donor, say a new donor. I mean, longstanding donors get it, they understand it, they know what we're doing. But if we were to approach a new donor, for example, and it was important to them that the money that they were going to entrust to us actually go to what we say it's going to, then it would be important to them that all of that money go to, say, for example, the Salvation Army or After School All Stars. And we would let them know that, yes, in fact, all of your money that you are underwriting goes to the beneficiaries. In fact, you can, a lot of our foundations just directly give them. I mean, it doesn't even come through our bank account. It just goes directly to the agency. And we apply on their behalf. Our foundations committee applies to, say, the Hillcrest Foundation or the Moody Foundation or some other foundation, and they will apply, and the money will go directly to that agency for that project. So yes, I think it's important to new donors that that they understand that their money is going where we say it's going to go, and so we do other fundraising to offset the costs of our events, so that it's the when you come to the ball, the other fundraising that we do, whether it be in the silent auction, our contribution tickets, the fashion show, all of that goes to basically the overhead.
That's amazing. And you touched upon something at the beginning of your response there, where you were talking about kind of, people that have been involved with the organization for a while versus, folks that are new. The fact that you all have been around for, as I said at the top of the show, 71 years, and you've given over $190 million to, dozens, if not hundreds of nonprofits. What's a piece of advice you can share on how an organization is able to just create such a devoted, loyal following that has donors, attendees, coming back to Crystal Charities and the Crystal Charity Ball year after year after year?
We have over 71 years, which, when I was thinking about it the other day, that's older than I am. So we have been raising money longer than I've been alive, which is amazing, and benefiting potentially children that are in their 70s at this time.
Wow.
So I think that is an incredible testament to the organization. But basically, we have a great cause. That's number one. People want to help children in need. So that's number one. And we have a track record of doing what we say. So when a donor gives us a gift, and then they turn around and say, oh, well, yes, this hospital received this equipment, and this preemie child is being helped. I mean, they can see it, and they know that we've done it, and they know that we've made a difference. I mean, you name a hospital or a nonprofit in Dallas that works with kids, and 9 times out of 10, they've been funded by us in the past.
Wow. And you had touched upon something else earlier in our conversation, where you were talking about a lot of kids in Dallas who are our age today benefited from Crystal Charities, because the organization's been around for 70 years. And one thing about Crystal Charities, that I'm familiar with, is that mothers, daughters, and now probably granddaughters have been involved with the organization. How does Crystal Charities encourage its members to have, their daughters, their granddaughters, and have the multiple generations become and remain involved with the organization?
Well, we don't do it intentionally. It just sort of happens because success breeds success, I guess. People want to be a part of it because they know their experience with what we do. So we don't go out and say, hey, would you want your daughter to be a member? it's vice versa. I think they would say, wow, I would like my daughter to be a member.
And I like how you just talked about success begets success. And the thing is that, when you have, and I believe the membership is 100 ladies, if I'm not mistaken. And
we have, well, 100 active, but one of the beauties of our organization is that not only do we have 100 active members, but we have about 55 what we call former ball chairmen who are still very involved and very supportive. And unless they're, they're in ill health or something, but then we also have a number of inactive members who they are still members, but they don't actively go out and fundraise. But they're very loyal and they continue to contribute every year in whatever way they can. So we have a huge membership, but only 100 active members.
I love how you explain that. And I love that there's basically, you really have, it's almost kind of like, you're in a fraternity or a sorority in college, and it's almost like your alumna who basically kind of go back after you've kind of, you've done your time where you were an active member in that, in that fraternity or in that sorority, that always stays and remains with you, throughout your life. And I love how the organization encourages that so that people go to future Crystal charity balls and remain involved in whatever way each alumni feels comfortable doing.
Yes, it's very, very similar to that, whether alumni or in my days in junior league, we called them sustainers. So they sustain the organization. It's very similar.
Oh, that's perfect. And that's the sustainers. That's the perfect way to describe it. It just gives, the organization some additional layers and just that additional push and the volume and the power of, a really large number of people that remain involved in whatever way they want to be. And tell us what guests can experience at this year's Crystal Charity Ball.
Oh, wow. Well, our theme this year is it is masterpieces in the making, changing children's lives. And what I wanted to do with that theme was to connect our mission, which is to change children's lives, and to the evening. And it just, I don't know how it just was inspiration, I guess. But it occurred to me that the children are our masterpieces, and we are together with our patrons or donors and our agencies, who you could say were the artists who are helping to create these masterpieces, and we're sort of their tools, the paintbrushes or the the chisel or what have you, are creating these masterpieces. And so that was just sort of my vision, and the night of will be all about masterpieces.
Wow, that sounds really cool. It sounds like it's going to be a really special evening to really kind of showcase, highlight, and and elevate these kids. So it's always one of the most special evenings from a fundraising perspective in Texas. So Angie, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. And we wish you great success. Great success with this year's Crystal Charity Ball.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And the Crystal Charity Ball will be held on December 9th, 2023 in Dallas, Texas. For more information, please visit crystalcharityball.org. And that will do it for this episode of Fun and Fundraising. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, reminding you to keep it fun, keep it interesting, and your guests will have a great time. Have a great day, everyone, and take care.